Yeah, so the executive order itself is a mishmash of policy tweaks designed to further enhance the profitability of healthcare. Among the biggest winners are health insurers. The order instructs the Department of Health and Human Services to create rules promoting expanding Medicare for Advantage, the privatized part of Medicare, under which insurers offer cheap plans that cover the benefits Medicare doesn't. These ideas include encouraging innovative Medicare Advantage benefit structures and plan designs, innovation being the jollier term for privatization in the Trump era, and ensuring that the government does not promote regular Medicare ahead of Medicare Advantage, which probably means directing the government to more fulsomely promote Medicare Advantage. The Trump administration already bumped up reimbursement for Medicare Advantage plans by 3.4% in 2018. So hospitals and healthcare providers will also win big as well. The order directs HHS to study raising the prices paid by Medicaid to more closely reflect the prices paid for services in Medicare Advantage and the commercial insurance market, which reimburses providers at a far higher rate than Medicare does. The goal is, according to the order, to encourage a more robust price competition and otherwise inject market pricing into Medicare fees. So it's kind of how that whole health jargon plays out. So pretty much beefing up this kind of system here. But Medicare Advantage is often only good until you have to use it. People who are sicker are more likely to leave Medicare Advantage plans than healthier people. The plans use networks to restrict which doctors patients can see. It's pretty much the worst part of Medicare because of the fact that it's so limited, and it's the kind of covers the bases that Medicare doesn't cover, and Medicare for All will cover. One Kaiser Family Foundation found that on average, Medicare Advantage plans included just 51% of hospitals in their county, and a separate study found that networks included 46% of doctors in a county. So these plans would often have a higher out-of-pocket cost. The average gross margin of Medicare Advantage plans is roughly double that of regular insurance, perhaps in part because the plans deny care that should be covered, and insurers overbill the government by billions each year. So that kind of profitability. This is pretty much the little piece of the bargain that somewhere along the way was added in so that the health insurance companies could have a little bit of a piece of pie, even on Medicare, when they're killing it everywhere else. They had to get into the Medicare, and Medicare Advantage was the perfect vehicle for him to do that. Medicare Advantage, growing it is a terrible policy, but it would be a smart strategy to crush single payer. It's akin to the dynamic of the private market for younger Americans. People with nice insurance subsidized by their employer will naturally want to guard that privilege, misguided as they are about how good that privilege really is. By growing the population with these prized Medicare Advantage plans, it grows the number of people that with a plan that would be ended by single payer, thus growing the audience for attacks on the scary socialist taking away your plan, that kind of very effective, or really, we don't know how effective it is, but very, very commonly used tagline. So that's kind of the idea there. By growing the population with these prized Medicare Advantage plans, that would really do it. It doesn't help that Democrats are really hitting it hard. So in July, Joe Biden claimed incoherently in AARP forum that under Medicare for All, Medicare goes away as you know it. All the Medicare you have is gone. It's new Medicare for Medicare system. So literally Medicare for All. Like, it's Medicare, but for everybody. That's pretty much the name. It's that simple. It's really that simple. Joe Biden linked polling firm was revealed last month to have tested messages opposing Medicare for All among Democrats and found that one of the most effective attacks was claiming is that it would lower the quality of care for senior citizens, regardless of the fact that whether or not it's true. In February, Nancy Pelosi implied that Medicare for All would be worse than the plans currently available under the ACA. Either Pelosi had been desperately uninformed about what one of the most prominent bills in her caucus actually contains, or she was cravenly lying. So the same obviously goes for Joe Biden. The fact is that Medicare for All would drastically improve Medicare for seniors by eliminating almost all cost sharing. It's kind of the same for everybody. But also including, you may have heard Bernie say this a few times, for dental, hearing, and vision coverage, and covering long-term care, which is currently only covered by Medicaid, not Medicare. So it's covering a lot of bases. Medicare for All is covering a lot of bases that Medicare normally doesn't cover, and really kind of covers more of what Medicaid covers. So there is that kind of element to it, and it's very important to realize. because it's not really very often that this stuff gets talked about. A lot of facts kind of go by the wayside, which is the problem. So, one of the groups that Trump believes the rest of America is desperate to keep away from their Medicare are immigrants. Trump claimed that Democrats are proposing draining your health care to finance the open borders, and said that Democrats put foreign citizens who break our laws and endanger our country way ahead of American citizens like you who obey our laws. This is obviously complete conservative dribble here. How would raiding Medicare funding allow for open borders? What is open borders anyway? What do they cost? I don't think anything. Like, wouldn't it be cheaper, in fact, to disband the Border Patrol and open the border? But civilians aren't trying to ascertain really any meaning or assume some kind of linear, logical thinking of anything that makes sense. But it's just a series of certain buzzwords, like open borders, Medicare, immigrants, stealing, taking away, Americans, real Americans, immigrants, Democrats, putting ahead of, like, it's just a bunch of buzzwords put it together in really an incoherent sentence pretty much each and every time. Like, that's pretty much Trump and conservative talk at this point, really, which is a very amusing thing to say. So, all right, you may have heard a little bit about what's going on in Turkey, and I do want to get into that, and of course that involves talking about what we are doing with the Kurds, and it's really not a good situation here about what's going on. So, the United Nations just opened its General Assembly in late September last year when President Trump gave a rare 81-minute press conference. Kurdish journalist Rahim Rashidi, who was born in Iran and fled to Iraq, then Turkey, and then claimed refuge in Sweden before settling into a new life in Washington, raised his hand to ask a question of the free world's leader. As Trump responded, "Yes, Mr. Kurd." But Rashidi didn't miss a beat, asking Trump about U.S. relations with the Kurds and American commitments against regional powers. And of course, they always want to really seem to want to steamroll that ethnic minority into oblivion. Says, "We do get along great with the Kurds. We're trying to help them a lot." Trump answered, "Don't forget, that's their territory. We have to help them. I want to help them. They fought with us. They died. We lost tens of thousands of Kurds who died fighting ISIS. They died for us and with us, and for themselves. They died for themselves. But they're great people, and we have not forgot. And we have not forget. That's how that quote ends there. In a rare moment in which Trump's bland blather matched long-standing U.S. rhetoric about the Kurds, who, as the world's largest stateless nation, number 20 and 40 million Middle Eastern people living mostly in enclaves across Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. For 3 decades, Kurdish nationalists have been armed men in the Middle East, reliable proxies and allies against U.S. struggle in Saddam Hussein, Tehran's government, and Islamist terrorists. But the thing is, they don't really have anything to offer us, except for when we want to fight some brown people across the seas. So when that's over, ISIS has been defeated. Sayonara, suckers. Go fend off genocide on your own. So that's what happened pretty much over the weekend. With a pretty surprise Sunday night announcement, U.S. Army is gonna pull out of Syria, leaving the Kurds there just pretty much giving a real vulnerability to attacks from Turkey and a lot of other bad sources. So, like, they could really be screwed. The fact is, they have pretty much served the interests of America across, really from all around, for quite a long time. Like, they have done it for a massive period of time, and 30 years. So, yeah. So what's going on right now is pretty much when after a phone call with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, a federal embattled strong-armed populist, Trump announced that, I didn't know it was after a conversation with Erdogan. That's pretty insane. But yeah, Trump announced that the United States was withdrawing troops from the northern Syria to prevent a Turkish military incursion, giving Erdogan a free hand to smash America's Kurdish allies there. The U.S., the White House said, would also forced its Kurdish partners, now ex-partners, to turn ISIS prisoners over the Turks to the Turks. But by Monday afternoon, Turkish jets were already dropping bombs at the Syrian border. Even Trump's allies were mind-boggled. Erdogan has made no bones about the fact he wants to smash the Kurds, who he considers a terrorist insurgency, and who's made a fitting punching bag for Ankara's electorally vulnerable nationalist leader. The Pentagon doesn't want this. James Mattis didn't want this. Mitch McConnell doesn't want this. Lindsey Graham really doesn't want this. Is even working with a Democratic senator to mitigate the considerable potential damage. Hell, even Trump claimed he didn't want this last summer when he bragging to reporters that his personal touch has kept untold millions of Kurds from being crushed by Turkey. Erdogan has a 65,000-man army at Turkey's border with Syria, and he was going to wipe out the Kurds, Trump said, who helped with ISIS. But I called him, and I asked him not to do it. It looks like he called you, and now you're his bitch. That's literally what it seems to be. Trump's new round of duplicitous kowtowing to Erdogan's wishes may seem unthinkable, but it's not without precedent. In fact, the United States has had a long history of selling out Kurdish interest. Though Trump may have looked like he bumbled this as only he could, he has had he's really following long-standing U.S. policy of not caring about allies, supposed allies, who are way less powerful than you and don't have anything to offer you in the long run. So that's pretty much what's going on here. Definitely a story to keep an eye on, and hopefully things get better for them. And if they do, and even if they don't, obviously, we will keep you well posted into what is going on. All right. Now a very interesting video. Ellen DeGeneres, you may have heard, guys, she sat next to George Bush. And, so she sat next to George W. Bush at a football game, laughing it up. People are like, Ellen, we thought we liked you. Why are you talking to George W. Bush? He kind of sucks. And here is her response. I think she really misses an important point. So this is what she says.
It may not seem like a big deal for a celebrity to attend a football game, but I never leave my house, so it is a big deal. I go through the drive-thru at Wendy's.
A lot of stuff's kind of irrelevant, so I'm going to skip through.
So they wanted to keep up with the Jones. I get to and I who's next to me.
She's taking a video here. Let's skip ahead a bit. And I think they cheer when George W. Bush comes on the screen. I don't get it. Like, he's not. Do we have. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Fancy. So that was Portia, and that was Charlotte Jones. Portia was talking to, and George W. Bush.
It was Jerry
and then
Jones'
in front of us was
kid.
The tallest man in the world. And so I've got to say, when we were invited, I was aware that I was going to be surrounded with people from very different views and beliefs. And I'm not talking about politics. I was rooting for the Packers, and get this, everybody in the Cowboys suite was rooting for the Cowboys. I like the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys. He's the quarterback for the Packers, and so I'm sitting in the Cowboys suite. She's friends with Aaron
Rodgers, the quarterback for the Packers, if you didn't know.
Cheering every time the Packers scored, or every time another whistleblower came forward.
Oh,
and
a current joke at the Times. Oh my gosh! Hilarious.
During the game, they showed a shot of George and me laughing together, and so people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. And but a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, and but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again.
The person's stupid.
Exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry, as a matter of fact. I have friends who should tweeze more. And I have, but just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Yay, yay, yay. Like, I mean, again, obviously it's it's good to be kind. Like, I'm not going to come out here and tell you it's not good to be kind. But the idea